Hey there, Legal Tea listeners. This is your host, Jenny Roselle. Welcome back for another Legal Tea episode today, episode 119. Today's topic is a current trend, and on this type of episode, we dive into something in the current time or that I've stumbled across on the news or social media that is pertinent to my estate and elder law world. Now, today's episode is more on the current times rather than anything I've seen on the news or social media, because today we're going to be talking about how the holidays are approaching, my friends, and what do many of us do around the holidays? We get together with family and loved ones and friends, and some of those that we will see and visit, we may not have seen them in a little bit. As I said at the end of my last episode, interestingly, my office's phones start ringing more at the end of the year and around the holidays because family is in town. And either it will be current clients' family members just wanting to come in, and quote, meet with the estate attorney, or maybe it's prospective clients with their family members in town. They want their family members to join them for the conversation about estate planning and join them for the meeting. But another big reason our phones ring more is because these family members may notice that mom, dad, aunt, grandma, whoever has declined physically or mentally, cognitively, since they last saw them. And now they're concerned. So I wanted to do this episode to possibly give you some tools and maybe resources and tips and tricks for how to deal with this and how to deal with noticing your family member or loved one's declining health. Even if it's not physical health, but perhaps showing significant signs of memory loss or cognitive impairment. When this happens, some of the questions that pop in your head, like in these moments of noticing declining health, are, do they have their legal affairs in order? If so, where are the documents? And who's appointed in those documents to help maybe be the one that needs to step in and intervene? Are they safe where they're living? Can they truly remain at home still? Maybe, maybe not, but if not, do we need to find someone or a company to drop in for visits like home health care? Honestly, those are just some of the questions that start popping up. There are many, many more questions, and sometimes you are left with significantly more questions than answers. So hopefully this episode will help at least sort of prepare you or get you thinking for the approaching holidays and possibly seeing a parent, grandparent, loved one, friend, etc., that this exact episode may be super applicable to. I mean, somehow it is November after all, and getting together for the holidays is right around the corner. First and foremost, the time is right now for someone to start the conversation with your family member or loved one about making sure their ducks are in a row if they are showing signs of slowing down, declining physical health, or showing memory loss. In my world, things truly can become too late where the options are on the table, like the remaining options on the table, are not fun and often expensive. Being proactive, I promise, pays off. One of the hardest things about starting the conversation is the who is going to start it. Who is the most appropriate person to approach the family member or loved one? Now, in my experience, there's not a one-size-fits-all answer. Some clients have had success with kind of all the kids approaching mom, dad, whoever at once, like as a group, rather than just say one child. I've seen that work well when mom, dad, whoever seems to be incredibly resistant, because if just one child does it, mom or dad will usually just find another kid to say something like, "Can you believe that your brother Bob brought this up to me?" And it's almost gossipy, right? And they'll start trying to find anyone to be on their side. Conversely, though, I have seen the group setting not work out well either, where mom, dad feels like almost attacked or like ganged up on, and that just makes their walls go up even more. So what I tell clients often is that you know your loved one better than I do. And specifically, you know how they're likely to respond to a conversation like this. Though regardless, oftentimes this conversation of just making sure we start getting ducks in a row, it takes time. Most of the time, they don't just jump on the phone the next day to call someone like me. Heck no. They drag their feet, but let's be real. Most people drag their feet with estate planning, so are you really going to blame them? There's a fine line in delicate balance between holding them accountable to making the call to someone like me and not being overbearing and annoying. If they feel you're being overbearing and annoying, that is likely just going to make them dig their heels in even more. So just don't call them every day. Almost think of it as like a seed that has to be planted. You have to plant it, and it doesn't grow immediately. You walk away and you check on it later. Now, it's usually going to be better and easier for me as the elder law attorney and for them to lead the charge. And when I say lead the charge, I mean to be the one that actually hires someone like me to get their estate planning done or get it updated. Sure, I have kids and loved ones in my conference room quite often, but at the end of the day, they, like mom, dad, whoever, is really who is my client, not the kids or, the loved ones. So that's what I mean. It's much easier for them to be the one that is the client rather than the kids or loved ones calling someone, like me to say, help, Jenny. We fear it's too late now because mom's dementia has gotten really, really bad. Because in that situation, it's the kid or the whoever's stepping in and kind of going to start leading the charge. That's who becomes my client. So my message to you on this front is that there is always going to be a solution 99.99999% of the time. Though, depending on the facts and situation, some solutions may be better than others. And I also hate to say it like this, but oftentimes the best solution in those situations are often the most expensive ones. So here's a couple of examples of what I mean. Recently, I had a dad that had received a dementia diagnosis. Well, I immediately, just because you get a dementia diagnosis does not mean that it's too late to get estate planning documents prepared. It's not ideal because it kind of puts my profession, me, the attorney, in a little bit of a pickle because I have to make sure that this person has the mental capacity to sign these documents. And just because someone has a dementia diagnosis does not mean that it's too late. So I explain all of this, and I'm really, 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 really encouraging this family and dad to get a power of attorney in place. Well, dad, continued to drag his feet. It became too late. And his dementia diagnosis took over, and he got to a point where I did not feel comfortable having him execute a power of attorney. So at that point, we had to start shifting and looking at a guardianship court process, which is just more expensive. It's more everything. It's more time. It's more energy. It's more cost. It's more everything. But that was the best solution. We didn't really have any other solutions at that point. And to give you kind of when I said a second ago that oftentimes the best solutions are the most expensive ones, when he still had the capacity, we charge a couple $100 for a power of attorney only. For guardianship, it's in the thousands, like multiple thousands of dollars. So because dad didn't sign a POA, the family ended up having to go through the guardianship court process, which ended up costing thousands of dollars. Another quick example, is that I had a client, his uncle had received a cancer diagnosis like at the beginning of 2023, like January, February-ish. Well, he dragged his feet and the cancer came back really, really badly, and now he's in hospice. And this is something that's happening currently. By the time this episode airs, I wouldn't be surprised if he's passed away. But unfortunately, long story short, he has a lot of assets kind of everywhere. And he really could have been the type of client that really benefited for, utilizing some sort of trust planning to avoid probate court process. But it's too late. I mean, the medical professionals are telling us that he's probably going to be with us just a few more weeks, if that. So there's really just no way to get something like that, done in the 11th hour. Really, because I can make things happen, but I'm really at the mercy of like financial institutions and recorders' offices that will inevitably slow the process. So I shared with the uncle's point of contact that I've been working with that, I can get a quick will made just for him to be able to relay his wishes. But we're going to have to take that will through probate. Probate is going to cost thousands of dollars. We could have avoided probate by utilizing a trust. So these last couple stories are real life stories that have both happened super recently. And they happen super recently because they happen all the time. Like I said earlier, it's going to be better to get someone's buy-in and to get them to show up to an estate and elder law attorney's office. But as we know, sometimes we can lead someone to the water, but it's up to them to drink it. And they don't, or they won't. In situations, whether we have buy-in from mom, dad, whoever, or if I'm working with the kids on behalf of mom or dad, an estate and elder law attorney is going to be a really good central resource for you. I can't tell you how many phone calls and emails we get from people thinking that we can help them, but really they just need someone else's service. So like we get calls all the time for Medicare advising. Now, we do Medicaid, not Medicare. They're two very different programs. Medicaid is kind of a glorified health insurance, while Medicaid is something that will help cover the cost of long-term care. So we do Medicaid, but we do not do Medicare. So we will refer callers or, people out to local Medicare resources. Kind of the same. Another example is for Social Security disability. We don't do that either, but it often comes up with aging adults. So elder law attorneys, we have lots of referrals and resources at the ready. And this reminds me of something someone said once, and I'm not honestly even sure who it was, but it has stuck with me. And whoever it was said that elder law attorneys are like social workers with a law degree. And I think they said that because most elder law attorneys have bleeding hearts. And as we know, social workers, they often have bleeding hearts too. And they're really just advocating for their client just ruthlessly. And, elder law attorneys are in this warm and fuzzy field for a reason. We are not rough and tough litigators. I have absolutely no desire to, do some sort of will contest where beneficiaries fight and things like that. And I say that because regardless of where you are listening to this from, I am based out of Indiana, but I know I have listeners all over. So if you need a ton of tools or resources, tips and tricks, even if it's just like, I don't even know where to start, because I have so many clients and meetings and prospects that will start a meeting with, I have no idea where to start. An elder law attorney is going to be a fantastic starting place for you because we have so many tools, so many resources, tips and tricks. This is what we do day in and day out. I hope this episode proves to be helpful as we approach the holidays. I guarantee at least one of my Legalty listeners will show up to a holiday and experience this exact feeling of, oh my goodness, Grandpa Bob is really not doing well. I also feel a weird need, here it goes, back to elder law attorneys being social workers with law degrees. I also feel a weird need to remind you that as we all dive into holiday time, remember that life is short and family and loved ones are not with us forever. Enjoy the moment and enjoy your time with your people, because it very well means that next year you won't see them. Alrighty, I'm out of time, friends, so let's wrap this episode up. Next week, we are back to the celebrity estate planning type of episode. And during that episode, we are going to dive into what happened estate-wise following the passing of Paul Newman, who, if you recognize that name, you'll agree with me when I say this. He had his hands in a lot of pots. He was an actor. He was an entrepreneur. I'm sure you've heard of Newman's Own salad dressing. Guess where Newman comes from, Paul Newman. He was even a race car driver. He had his hands in a lot of pots, like I said. So definitely tune in next week for an episode on his estate, because it is a good one. So talk to you then, and stay well.